to order. Please rise for the pledge. All right, moving along in our agenda, we do not have any announcements, but we do have a service award, and I'll turn it over to Chief Gephardt for the service award.
Thank you, Council, for having us tonight to recognize one of our officers, Troy Fettinger. We're here to recognize 25 years of service and protection to the city of Fishers. He's here with his family. Dama couldn't make it tonight, but she's here in spirit. She's normally at everything, but I'm sure she'll be at the next thing we do for sure. Troy Fettinger began his career here in 1996. Before that, he was in Hancock County as an officer down there. He lateraled over to us, and at the time, we were talking about it earlier, probably had about 23 officers on the department and about 26,000 population. So he has protected us through all this growth and prosperity for over 2 decades. Pretty notable achievement. Also in that, he served our agency in many capacities through specialties and leadership and roles within our agency that's helped us grow to the agency we are today. We're here to thank him for his 25 years of service and to thank his family for 25 years of support. So thank you, Troy. Congratulations.
Thanks to all of you for your protection of our community. We greatly appreciate it, and thank you, Officer Fettinger, for your service as well. We have no presentations. The Finance Committee meeting was canceled for this month, so we'll move on to the consent agenda. There are 2 items on tonight's consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Motion by Pete. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by John. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Moving on to economic development, item number 7, R071921B, a resolution approving an economic development agreement with Quantigen. We have Megan Baumgartner to introduce this tonight.
Thank you. For the record, Megan Baumgartner, Director of Economic and Community Development for the City of Fishers. Tonight we have an exciting life sciences company that we announced earlier in the month, Quantigen, with their plans to expand and move into 10300 Kincaid Drive and have some significant investment that they plan to do along with their growth plans. So for your consideration tonight, we have their personal property tax abatement. We are requesting approval of a 5-year, 100% approval of their new personal property that they plan on investing in that building, which is approximately $2.1 million. Along with that, they do plan to increase their headcount by an additional 23 employees, and included in their SB1. The average salary of those new positions ranges anywhere from $22 to $36, and they plan to retain 17 employees at this location. So we're excited to welcome another expansion of a life sciences company in Fishers. Unfortunately, they weren't able to join us here tonight, but I'm happy to answer any questions about this project.
This is actually I'm sorry.
Wait a second. Do I have a motion to approve R071921B? Motion by Pete. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Crystal. I'll now open it for discussion. Any comments or questions from the council?
Just comment, Megan, this company's been in Fishers for quite some time, if I'm not mistaken, and it's over there off of Allison Road, kind of tucked back in there, one of those office buildings.
Exactly.
So this is a company who's been there. It's kind of started to grow and maturing. They're starting to get their legs underneath them. So certainly I'll be supportive of this. It's a great company. I do know the owners at a personal level, so they're really great people. So really excited about this enhancement and them growing here in this community. So thank you.
Thanks.
Good job.
Do we have any other comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll close the discussion and call for a vote. All those in favor of approving Resolution R071921B, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Moving on to item number 8, R071921C, a resolution approving a declaratory resolution for Stevenado. And we have Megan Baumgartner again. Thank you.
Thank you. So tonight is the second step in the approval of the Stevenado Economic Development Agreement that was presented last month. As you'll recall, for any abatement approval, City Council needs to designate an economic recovery area, or an economic recovery area for any sort of economic development projects for tax abatements. So this first step is a declaratory resolution designating this property as an economic revitalization area. And next month, we'll have the public hearing and approval of the SB1 and the confirmatory resolution for this project. Unfortunately, Stevenado in Italy wasn't able to join us, but again, happy to answer any questions that council might have.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve R071921C? A motion by Pete. Do I have a second?
Second?
Second by John. I'll open it up for discussion. Do we have any comments or questions from the council?
I think the only comment I make is when they do get into town, I would love to see it.
Absolutely. So,
Yes.
council, we're finalizing our groundbreaking ceremony, and hopefully their representatives from Italy are able to join us, and travel restrictions aren't in place, so we're shooting for September. So we're going to make sure that we go all out for a great groundbreaking celebration for the property. So absolutely, we'll do that.
May I just want to commend you and your team for just bringing this catalyst to our city. I think it's exciting to see us being part of the biosciences industry and it coming here to Fishers. So good job.
Thank you.
I'm now going to close the discussion and call for a vote. All those in favor of approving resolution R071921C, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to resolution R071921D, a resolution approving First Amendment to Economic Development Agreement. And we have Megan with us again. You are a popular person tonight.
Yes, thank you.
All the great work you're doing.
Thank you. So tonight is a request for the First Amendment to the EDA for ThyssenKrupp. So in May of each year, council approves the compliance forms or CF1s for all of the active abatements that we have in the city. As you'll recall, ThyssenKrupp was included in there as not in compliance. They were supposed to have met their headcount commitments for the year, which they had not been able to do. So we were able to bring ThyssenKrupp in and discuss with council kind of the reasonings for that. A lot of that was as a result of the automotive industry really breaking down during COVID and a complete halt to their operations and a change of what they were having to manufacture and do R&D for. So after discussing with council and getting some general feedback, we're bringing forward this amendment to their abatement. So if you'll recall, we did a 5-year 100% abatement previously. Since we declined this 2020 year, so we're approving things in arrears, what we're requesting is that they continue to be declined their 2020 tax abatement on their personal property, but allow the last 2 years to go into effect. For council, though, the personal property depreciation has pretty much bottomed out, so it's about $10,000 benefit that they'll receive combined over the next 2 years. So we're requesting that you move forward with that, but then also that we are allowed to have them amend their SB1. So they're reducing their headcount commitment from 150 employees to 105 employees and adjusting the salaries included on the SB1 to reflect that reduced headcount. We do think that they are committed to being in Fishers, are great stewards for our community, Unfortunately, weren't able to come down from Chicago tonight, but happy to answer any questions about the amendment and the request.
What's their head count today, Megan?
They are at 90, let me see, I think they were at 98.
98?
Do I have a motion to approve? Ours, motion by Pete. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Crystal. I'll now open it up for discussion. Do you have any more comments,
Yeah.
Brad?
We have an agreement, they didn't meet the agreement, and I understand conditions, but why don't we wait until they at least meet the 105 before we approve any more deductions? And if that's 6 months from now, then come in 6 months from now, and we can do whatever is appropriate 6 months from now.
My understanding, and Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, is that tonight we do need some sort of action to confirm that we declined or rejected their current year of their abatement, so of the 2020. For the timing of it moving forward, Chris, I'm not sure how that would work.
I think that's up for council's consideration for the future amendment, but Megan's right with respect to this year's abatement. We need to confirm that we're taking the steps. And then if you recall, we also had the option on the table to go back and terminate the entire abatement that was provided. And so we're either confirming that we're not going to do that, or that we're going to move forward altogether and then grant the additional 2 years. But you're correct, we could hold off as an option.
Okay, then, so you need the motion tonight for the 20, so why don't you separate that, make two motions?
Well,
One for the 20, and then one for the last 2 years.
I think that's a consideration for the council.
Isn't there a clawback provision in this?
There is.
Okay, so that should handle that.
But yes. So yes, but I think what we want to do is we want to be able to reset that option to clarify in the future whether or not we're going to claw back potentially, or have that option still on the table, or whether we're going to move forward and reset the total employment commitment.
It says the city will not claw back. It says the city's not going to claw back.
I believe it's for the 2020 year.
Correct.
So that we're not clawing back because the existing clawback allows us to have gone back and clawed back the 2019 benefit that they received, which was about $14,000.
Still moves forward, though.
Correct. So yeah, they're not receiving the 2020 benefit. There's still a clawback for, if this year for 2021, when they submit in 2022, if they haven't met the 105 job commitment that they've said that they confidently can meet, then you could go back and claw it back for 2021.
Which is why we have those in there, right? So for these type of exceptions, instead of declining and sending that bad message back to the company, right? And we're really not talking about that many dollars to begin with, if my memory serves me right. So the clawback provision's in there for exactly that purpose, where they make those promises and we've agreed to reset, and then if they don't hit those, we have the ability to claw back if they didn't hit those. So I think we've got it addressed.
Okay, I'm going to now close the discussion and call for a vote. All those in favor of approving Resolution R071921D, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to Planning and Zoning, item number 10-062121A, consideration of an ordinance for a temporary signage policy for businesses impacted by State Road 37. This is introduced by Megan Schaefer, and then after that, we'll have Pete provide an update from the Plan Commission on this.
Great, thank you. Megan Schaefer with the Planning and Zoning Department. So as mentioned, this is a final reading for the State Road 37 temporary signage ordinance. And this is really for the businesses along the State Road 37 who have been impacted by the road construction, just to make sure that they have adequate signage to direct their customers to their site. This did go to Plan Commission last month, and no public comments were heard, and there was a unanimous recommendation back to City Council in support.
Pete, do you have anything to add from Planning Commission? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve ordinance 062121A?
So moved.
Motion by John, second by Pete. I'll now open up for discussion. Are there any comments or questions from the council? Seeing none, I'll now close the discussion and call for a vote. All those in favor of approving ordinance 062121A, say aye. Aye. Motion passes. Item number 11, 062121B, consideration of a text amendment to the city's Unified Development Code, section 5.1.1. We have Megan Schaefer, our next popular Megan.
Thank you. So this is another amendment to the Unified Development Ordinance for final reading before you tonight for a new change of use or change of tenant standard for large-scale tenant spaces, which would be considered any tenant space that is 25,000 square feet or greater. This would apply to any commercial or institutional use excluding medical, office, or industrial. So office headquarters or any manufacturing institutions would be excluded from this ordinance. And this did go to Plan Commission as well last month. No public comments were heard, and it did receive a unanimous favorable recommendation to City Council. So staff would recommend that you all approve tonight.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve ordinance 062121B? Motion by Pete, do I have a second? Second by Todd. I'll now open it up for discussion. Any comments or questions from the council? Seeing none, I'm going to
I'm
close-
sorry.
Oh,
I'm
sorry.
sorry, I was just slow. Megan, I just had a question. Can you share with us just a little bit about how this would play out? I mean, in terms of working with a plan commission, like, if a organization, let's say retail, step forward, like, can you just walk us through that process a little bit, what this ordinance would do to change the process?
Yeah, so if a new retailer wanted to occupy a tenant space that was over 25,000 square feet, we would require them to submit a change of use permit, which is currently an application that we offer. And so staff would review it at that time for compliance with the underlying zoning district. And once we confirm that that use would be permitted, then we would bring it back before City Council for additional consideration as outlined in those, in the text amendment.
And the ordinance includes like criteria for the city council to have in mind when they consider that.
That is correct, yep.
It basically operates as an overlay zone, which is exactly what we took up when we kind of took both sides of I-69 up the corridor to protect that corridor and to protect the old Marsh stores when they went out of business, to make sure that we had another bite at the apple, that we're getting development that we wanted and not just what fit in the mold. And the easiest thing I can tell you is you could have maybe a Dollar Tree go into Brook School Road and 116th Street at Marsh. Was that the most and best use for that spot? You know, that would have to come back before council in the overlay zone. Very similar action is being taken here to kind of protect our zoning and the fit and finish of our city and what we do and what we don't want there. It was discussed at Planning Commission with those kind of topics around, so.
Well, in proof of concept 96 on land, you look at how that Marsh store is redeveloping, it's going to be a great use. So us having that opportunity has been a good thing for us.
But the review is not arbitrary. I mean, this is the part of the ordinance that I feel very comfortable with. Like, it's really clear what the criteria is, so I'm grateful that that's included.
Any more comments, questions? I'm going to close the discussion and call for a vote. All those in favor of approving ordinance 062121B, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to item number 12, 071921, consideration of a rezone of 60 acres. And we have Megan again.
Great, and I'm just pulling up the presentation here. So this item before you tonight, and this item and the item that's up next, I just have them both displayed on this graphic just to kind of show you that they are generally located in the same area, but they are two distinct separate developments. So the first one that we're going to talk about tonight is Milford Park. So this is a new proposed PUD for a single-family residential development, which would consist of 121 residential lots. The proposed underlying zoning district for this PUD would be R4 residential, And so up here, if you can read that, is kind of the Milford Park development standards as they relate to that R4 underlying zoning district. So they are asking for some deviations to the lot size and some setbacks, but are proposing a larger floor plan for the homes themselves. So Lennar is the builder for this area, and I'm really going to turn it over to Steve Harden with Fair Drinker to give you a full presentation for this proposed development.
Thank you, Megan.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the City Council. My name is Steve Harden. I'm a partner in the law firm of Fager Drinker, and I'm pleased to be here this evening representing Lennar Homes. With me from Lennar is Tony Bagato, and Keith Lash is also here this evening if you've got any questions for them that I can't answer. Thank you, Megan, for your update. The project that Megan was showing you, this is about 60 acres located on the east side of Florida Road, just in between Southeastern Parkway. How do I do this? This one? You got it. Located just south of Southeastern Parkway, which is here, and north of 113th Street. The Agri Park is located down here for reference. The Indiana Gun Club is located here. Thorpe Creek is up here, and Welchel Springs, the existing Welchel Springs, is next door. This is a little bit more of a close-up view. There's the Lennar team, as they went through the site planning process, they noted the existing woodlands here and the pond that's in the middle of the property, and so they've designed their concept plan to accommodate those existing natural features. So here's an image, a little bit closer up view of the concept plan. The project will be going through the PUD committee process as well. These are in your packet, you'll see, as well as in the ordinance, are the illustrative home plans. These homes are expected to range between $420,000 and $500,000, with home sizes ranging from 2,100 to 3,500 square feet, with an average expected around $480,000. These are the architectural style of homes. That's the collection that Lennar has built at Oakhurst, which is at about 101st and Cynthia Road near the city's park, if you drive by that neighborhood. They also, some of the key things with both this project and the Fisher Homes project, in addition to having high-quality homes, these projects are located near 5 existing parks in the area. This is one of those interesting parts of the city of Fishers where we've got a county park, which is Geist Park. We've got the township Fall Creek Natural Area, and then we have the city parks of Cynthia Park, the Fishers Agri Park, and then Flat Fork Creek Park, all here within convenient location. And as you see on this exhibit, this is also the location of the Geist Greenway trail system that the city's been working on for quite some time. This will run from 96th Street up through Saxony, and part of both of these projects that you'll be hearing about tonight have components of those trail systems as part of their project. This is not showing up super well, so let me go to the next slide. As far as the Greenway Trail, the city's plan is to have the Geist Greenway Trail. Currently, it'll run down through the power line easement. It'll cut along the south side of the Fisher Homes development, cross over Florida Road, and then it'll be picked up by Lennar and will be run along the parallel to Florida Road until it gets to the south end of this property. It eventually then will connect on to the south to get down to the Agri Park. And so that's something that Lennar is working collaboratively with the city right now on the construction and timing of those trail improvements. The other kind of big part of these projects is helping the infrastructure out in this area. So this is an excerpt from the city's thoroughfare plan, a primary arterial. Most of you who are familiar with the engineering world, the primary arterials are our second largest streets in the city of Fishers, only behind an interstate. So a primary arterial is designed to be located in areas where the city anticipates moving a lot of traffic. So these have the widest right-of-ways of 120 feet. And so the developers here will be dedicating the required right-of-way on their side of the property for both Florida Road, which is a primary arterial here in red, and then Cynthian Road, which is partially built right to the edge of these properties. And so Cynthian Road will connect from Southeastern Parkway all the way to Florida Road, and these properties will be building that remaining leg of that primary arterial. So these properties are served by two primary arterials. The developers will be dedicated at no cost to the city, the right-of-way, and then they'll be coordinating with the city engineering and planning departments the timing of those improvements for both of those as well. I did also, in some of our earlier discussions with some of the city leaders, there was questions about, well, what's going to happen with this down here in this area to the south of the Loire project. And so, zoom in a little bit. So right now, there's a roundabout here at 113th in Florida, and you go north, and there's a little chicane as you come through here, and it connects up to Florida Road. And so there were questions about what's going to happen with that property. It's already previously zoned for a PUD to the south. I learned today from Loire that they now have that property under contract as well. And so that will be able to come into the mix with road improvements and trail extensions, just like we are doing for the project that's currently in front of you. So that's a positive from that perspective. The couple of issues that have come up as we've talked through with the city leaders on the project so far, one question was what type of sustainability can be incorporated into the projects. These are residential developments, so there's not maybe as many opportunities as you might see with commercial development. So one of the questions that the developers have looked at so far was, will they be offering LED lights? And the answer is yes. They can't force the homeowners to continue to do it, but they will be putting those in initially. That's their plan already. There has been some questions about could they agree to not prohibit solar panels on homes, and so the developers are open to that dialogue and discussion. It probably merits further discussion with the city leadership on where they're located, where they're visible. And so they're definitely, the request to consider that has been heard, and they're looking through that, as well as things even as small as, is there any quality type of solar lighting that could be used at the entrance to as you have lights for the signs. So we're looking through all those, and we'll be prepared to give updates at the Plan Commission and back at City Council. In addition to that, we appreciate Councilman DeReamer particularly meeting with us and talking about side yard setbacks. And so we are very understanding of that. That's a concern that Councilman DeReamer has. He shared that with us, particularly at Britton Falls, where they have 5-foot side setbacks, and there have been homeowners there who have complained about drainage problems and potentially associated with a 5-foot side yard setback. The builders then proposed for most of the development in this project, or all of in this particular project, and I'll address the Fisher Homes one here in a moment, these are 7 feet side yard setbacks. So those are a 40% increase over Britton Falls 5-foot side setback. But we also have shared with Councilman DeReamer that we want to collaborate with the city. If there's an issue from an engineering or drainage, stormwater issue, that should be something everybody should be aware of. The state building code is 5 feet. And so if there is, we're not here tonight to solve the issue. We want to acknowledge that we did hear Councilman DeReamer. They did increase it by 40%. And we're working with the city engineering and stormwater team to kind of hear from them what their perspectives are. The builders, from their perspective, and we've had a lot of neighborhoods developed here in Fishers that have 5-foot, 6-foot, 7-foot setbacks, and the builders, 201, have said that they're not aware of them having any problems in any of those neighborhoods. And so they believe that it's not an engineering or a design or a standard issue, but it can be an implementation issue. If the lot's not properly graded, that could potentially cause, from the builder or developer, if it wasn't graded properly, that could cause some problems. But again, we're not trying to solve the issue. It's not over, by any stretch of the means tonight. This is first reading. But we did want you to know that we did hear Councilman DeReamer, and we're working with him and the staff to make sure we come up with what the right answer is for that. If approved, this project is anticipated to begin development activities next spring. We'd be happy to answer any questions that you have tonight for us. Thank you very much.
Do I have any questions from the council?
Steve, are you giving the next presentation too? I'll just wait to talk.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to thank you for talking to me about the sustainability questions that I had and trying to push these sustainability efforts forward for Fishers. Thank you.
Thank you. And it's nice to see you in person. We've been doing video, so yeah, welcome to the City Council. Thank you.
I do have questions about the plan for road improvements. So these primary arterials are not primary arterials today. And I do want to be sure that we're very thoughtful about new development and being sure that infrastructure keeps up with it. So maybe I'll defer my questions to the next presentation. I mean, this is all kind of connected, but I'm especially interested in knowing what the communication is to neighbors in this area about what they can expect in that area.
Sure. Well, we are having neighbor meetings like we would normally do with any project, but prior to the Plan Commission. The city will tell us what road improvements they want us to make. There's been a number of preliminary meetings and conversations with planning and engineering on what the scope and extent of the improvements to Cynthia Ann Road would be. That's a 120-foot right-of-way, so each builder would be dedicating a 60-foot half right-of-way and then making the improvements. And the easiest way to probably explain it is if you drive out to Welchel Springs today and see what that looks like today, that's what the indication is currently, is that the city wants us just to extend what's out there today from where it ends to Florida Road. And then with respect to Florida Road, the details there are, there's just been a recent, top coat put on by the county. So there's fresh asphalt out there today. It's probably in the best shape it's been in probably 10 years or so, if not more, right now. But there is the request from engineering to do widening in a shoulder, in addition to the normal A-cell, D-cell, and passing blisters. And again, probably the easiest way to look at what's planned is likely kind of some of what's out in front of Welchel Springs, immediately to the north right now. But those details we should hopefully have by the time we're at Plan Commission from the engineering department. They'll tell us what's required. And then the final plans would eventually work their way into the plat and construction plans that would then be coming back to the City Plan Commission for review and approval down the road before construction happens.
Brad, do you have any concerns about the roads accommodating the new development? Yeah, I'm deferring to you. I'm going to wait. Okay, that's what, it's hard. We're talking about two very separate projects, but they're neighbors. So,
sure.
So let's talk more about that for the next one.
Sure.
Thanks.
Okay. Do I have a motion to give, thank you. This ordinance will now go to Plan Commission for further consideration and public hearing. Moving along to item number 13-07192A, consideration of a rezone of 107 acres. We have Megan wait a second.
Yeah. Go ahead, Megan.
Yeah, if I could make one comment before we get started, just short and sweet. I'm really interested when that roundabout at Florida Road and Southeastern is going to be completed. These both are going to, be on Florida Road, so I'd like to understand what that plan is going to be to accommodate that. There's going to be a lot of traffic on this road. It's already increasing with Welchel Springs up by Southeastern and Florida Road. So used to drive my Mustang out there a little faster than I should have back in the day, and obviously with more traffic out there, we're not going to be able to do that. Plus, I don't have the Mustang anymore. So something really important I think we're going to just need to address. So be interested from engineering perspective how that's going to work.
Yeah, and we'll definitely
So-
get with engineering to see what that timeline is. Yeah, and they have been looking at the road improvements in
Not
this
just anybody's
area.
thunder here, but just my thoughts on that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll look into it. So the next item is just adjacent to that project we discussed. So this is the Cove at Thorpe Creek. This is a proposed development from Fisher's Home, which would include an extension of the existing Thorpe Creek neighborhood and then kind of an additional separate neighborhood off of Florida Road. So there are three distinct areas that are proposed within this PUD. So the first one, as mentioned, is the Grand Estates, which is that extension of the existing Thorpe Creek neighborhood. The proposed development standards align directly with the Thorpe Creek neighborhood. So you can see here in this image the stub from that existing neighborhood to the south. The second district is the designer district. And so this is going to have an underlying zoning of R5 residential, so a little bit higher density for single family lots. And then the third district is the patio district, which also has the R5 underlying residential zoning district. So as mentioned in the last presentation, something to highlight though as well from staff perspective is the pedestrian connectivity in this area. So the Geist Greenway does run along and intersect with this property, and so this green line identified here is the proposed Geist Greenway, which the developer will be installing with this development. Additionally, they'll be connecting to the pedestrian path along Florida Road to that Geist Greenway here along the southern property line, and that will be in common area, so not on any private property, but will provide an east-west connection to that greenway, which will then further be connected with that Cynthian Road improvement. So lots of great pedestrian connection happening in this area. But I'll turn it over to Steve now to give you a more thorough overview.
Thank you, Megan. For the record, again, Steve Harden here representing Fisher Homes, and from Fisher Homes is Brad Kreiner, Division President. If there's any questions that you might have for him this evening. As Megan mentioned, this is, again, similar. I'm going to keep this exhibit up right now that we have. The trail improvements are pretty significant here in this area. As you can see, the coming through the Duke power line easement is the green area, which is a 12-foot segment of the Geist Greenway. And then the pink along the bottom is the extension, and so that would be a 10-foot path. And then that's going to be connecting to both sides of Florida roads, pedestrian trails that run along there, and then Loire, as we talked before, on their side will be extending that Geist Greenway trail along the east side of Florida Road. Similar to what we just saw before, we have a concept plan. Let me change this. We have the concept plan that you're seeing here tonight on the screen. There's a lot of wooded area and natural beauty for the site. This is showing illustratively how the lots would be laid out. There are 3 different types of homes planned here, which is something that's been encouraged by the city. You saw, and hopefully saw in your packet, this is the area that Megan mentioned before, is right up next to the existing Thorpe Creek. And you can see on each of these pages, we've got an excerpt from the concept plan highlighted in red where the lots are located. I think it was in 2018, we were here in front of the City Council for approval of this little area here that added some acreage into the existing Thorpe Creek. And those adopted at that time the same exact standards that existed for the adjacent Area C in Thorpe Creek. And that's the same thing that Fisher Homes is doing. Fisher Homes is the one who's been developing and building most of the lots that remain in Thorpe Creek right now, and they're the ones that are developing and building the homes here immediately to the north. And those homes are expected to range from $750,000 to $930,000, and again, the development standards are the ones that are there, identical to the existing Thorpe Creek. Fisher Homes up next area is their designer home series. And those will, again, everything will be going through the PUD committee as part of the Plan Commission review process. Those homes are expected to range from $405,000 to $535,000, and those are aimed at the move-up home buyers. The Thorpe Creek homes were really aimed at that higher-end executive home buyer, and so these will be designed primarily for that move-up market. And then the third section is the area that is designed for the older demographic. It's age targeted, not age restricted. These are the lots located along here with easy access to the trail. These patio homes are anticipated to be designed for those people who want to move down, that are like me, that have lived here for 20 years or so, and their kids have now graduated from school, and they're taking up the room in the big houses, and they should move down to free up those houses of housing stock for other people. And so this is an opportunity to be able to still live in the same community near your family, friends, and churches. And these are expected to range from 440, they're going to be starting in the 300s and average between 440 and 475. I won't go through the parks map or the trails plans that you saw before, but I will just put this back up again as we're talking through some of the plans. So the timing for this development is very similar to the Lenars, that if approved, the anticipation is they would begin development activity sometime next spring, and they're in collaboration again with the city on both the timing and extent of the trail connection, as well as with the road improvements connecting Cynthiana Road and Florida Road. And with that, we'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have for us. Thank you very much.
Do we have any questions from the council?
Thank you, Steve. Steve and I have been talking probably a couple of years about Fisher zoning. I've been talking with Megan about the problem we have in Britton Falls. And Thursday night, she asked me, do you have examples of properties in Britton Falls where this is an issue? So my way of communicating with Britton Falls, since the developer won't allow me to do it, I have 32 street captains, and I send out to those 32 street captains. The 32 street captains then push down to their block or blocks. Now, at our age, we don't use email like we do here. So out of my 32 street captains, I just pushed this out Friday. So in 2.5 days is all they had to respond. Less than 50% of my street captains got it pushed out as of tonight. Only 15 of them have. And a lot of people don't read their email for 2 or 3 days. So keep that in mind, 2.5 days in the data that I'm going to present to you. I sent out an email and I asked the residents of Britton Falls if they're having any kind of problems between their houses relative to mold, drainage, or anything else with a 5-foot setback. 100% of Britton Falls is zoned for 5% setbacks. Not all of them are 5, but the majority are. By Sunday at noon, when I sent the information to you guys, I had 51 responses. Got 6 more this morning, and I got 3 while I was sitting out in the parking lot and waiting the 15 minutes to come in. So let's call it 60 in 3 days. If this person is having a drainage problem, then his neighbor is having a drainage problem. So now we're at 120 lots. And if the other side is 10 foot, which the majority have said they've got problems on both sides of their house, for every one response I get is 3. We're already up to 180 homes in Britton Falls with mold and drainage problems. And they have been dealing with this since 2008. 2008. Let me just show you a couple examples. This is my house, which my neighbor, I'm on a curve, so my one side of the house that I'm standing on does not have 5 feet, the other side does. But that's what 5 feet is on my house. My HVAC guy can't even work on my HVAC without trespassing on my neighbor. The bottom picture there is my window well to my basement, and as I looked at that a few minutes before, I'm almost over the property line just with a window well for my basement. A few people did send me some photographs of their neighbors. I'll go through these quickly just to show you what it looks like in Britton Falls. It's standing water. That's what most of them have all the time, whether it rains or not. Real nice grass. Everybody sent me an email. I copy those and send them to you guys. I would like to read one email that I did receive because it kind of represents everybody out there. This is from Kurt Pershing. He is a professional painter. He moved into Britton Falls He's only 53, but his wife was 55, so he legally could move in. But he's still working full-time as a professional painter, and he's a scratch golfer. I don't know how he does that. But he sent this to me, and I'd just like to read this to you, please. I saw your email about 1 a.m., and I know I'm probably too late to submit a response to your question. Other than Hiddle's a landscaper, other than Hiddle mowers, I've probably been between more homes in Britton Falls than anyone and have power washed more mold and mildew than anyone. I could name many homes with homeowners' names which have chronic issues of mold and mildew issues. It would be much easier to make a list of the pairs of homes that don't have moisture problems between them, because there wouldn't be many. Unless we're in a dry spell, I have to wear rubber boots to deal with the swamp-like conditions between the homes. I would be more than happy to speak to any one of your city councilmen. From Kurt Pershing. When I came on 6 years ago, this was the zoning ordinance for subdivisions. We had 5 Rs and an ER. And as you can see, the minimum setback is 10 feet, 10 feet, 10 feet, 15, 20, and 30. But everything in Fishers gets developed as a PUD instead of any one of the Rs or the ER. I'm not sure why we wasted time and spent all that money to even come up with this chart. By their own admission, years ago, the planning department admitted that they have so many PUDs, they can't supervise them. And I had recommended 1 year in the budget to put an extra employee into the planning department that just reads PUDs and gets in his car every day and checks the city, like I personally did when I was a mayor in Greenfield. So with that thought process, the public thinks that Fishers is run by developers and not the city. And I can't defend that, especially with Britton Falls. As a city councilman, I was elected to represent my constituents and protect them. I was not elected to help builders build more lots and make more money. Britton Falls is a good example of what happens when the city does not supervise development. I would like for us, I know it won't happen, but I would like for us to get rid of PUDs and have developers come in. They can pick 3 Rs within a 40-acre, 100-acre, whatever they want. Rezone it to 1 of the Rs, 2 of the Rs, 3 of the Rs. Then the planning department knows what's going on and much easier to supervise from the inspections on down. So I personally will not approve any project anymore unless it has a minimum of 10-foot side setbacks. The residents of Britton Falls have asked me to do that. I'm elected to represent them, so I'm passing on what my constituents want. They want a 10-foot setback. They have also asked me to ask the city to correct the hundreds of problems between their houses since the city approved the 5-foot setback. They have asked the developer since 2008, and the developer refuses to do anything to help them. We do have sprinklers between our houses. We have shut them off if the developer will. A lot of times the developer says, that's your problem. We put bricks over the sprinkler heads so they can't sprinkle the grass. We have paid contractors to come out and take our downspouts away from the middle of the drainage. We have a problem in Britton Falls, and it's caused by 5-foot side setbacks. I am requesting the city council enforce the ordinances we have on the books minimum of 10-foot side setbacks. Britton Falls will probably be here for the Plan Commission public hearing. There are a few in the audience that may speak during the 3 minutes that they have at the end of the meeting. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Brad. Do I have a motion to give ordinance 07192A first reading? Motion by Pete. This ordinance will now go to Plan Commission for further consideration. Moving on to item number 14, 071921B, consideration of a text amendment to the nickel plate code. We have Megan Schaefer to introduce this.
Yes, and real quick, I just wanted to thank Brad for sending over that information, and we are looking into it before Plan Commission, before those developments go before Plan Commission. So the item before you, the last item on tonight's agenda, is for an amendment to the Nickel Plate District Code. And this is an additional standard and really clarification to residential conversions. So the language reads that any home built as a residential dwelling shall remain residential for a minimum of 3 years from when the certificate of occupancy is issued prior to converting it to commercial. And this is really the intent of the residential conversion requirement in the Nickel Plate District Ordinance is to allow for existing residential homes to be converted into commercial. And so what this standard is trying to prevent is someone coming in and building a residential home or telling us they're building a residential home and then immediately converting it to commercial before it's even occupied as a residence. There's a couple issues from a public safety standpoint. There's different building code standards that apply to a residential building versus a commercial building, and so we want to make sure that any commercial structure is getting built to commercial standards. And then additionally, we have impact fees that are assessed based on just the impact to our infrastructure. And so if a commercial structure is coming in, that's going to be assessed under a different impact fee than a residential structure. So this is for first reading, and I'm here to answer any questions that you guys might have.
Do I have any questions from the council?
Yeah, so Megan, just so we can have an appreciation for this, really what I think is precipitating this is we've had an issue in the past where someone was going to build a residential structure and then immediately turned it into a commercial structure, which really kind of goes around our impact fees and building standards, et cetera, et cetera. So we're just kind of filling that gap, if you will, so that doesn't happen to us again, rather than have to chase them after the fact to say, hey, you said it was going to be a house, and now it's a retail business. You need to come back and go through that process. So we're trying to cut this off before that. Is that correct?
Yep, that's
Okay.
correct.
It's to channel Councilmember Dreamer's presentation, it's an accountability measure on developers to ensure that they meet the standards that are in place by both the state law and the local laws when it comes to development.
Yeah, it gives our staff more ability to go out there and enforce that requirement.
Has this occurred?
This has occurred, yes.
And how does zoning fit into this conversation?
So the Nickel Plate District allows for residential conversions. So it's more of a form-based code, so we're not necessarily regulating uses of every structure.
I understand. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I think in all likelihood, Councilwoman Bear, it would probably only take place in our form-based code areas where you could
I understand.
do a variety of uses. I doubt this is a citywide issue,
Okay.
but I think in specific areas it could definitely be a problem.
I think it's
Thank
probably
you.
mostly around South Street, down
Correct.
Lantern Road,
Right.
those areas that are
Yeah.
changing and people are staying as well.
Yep.
As they are able
Yes,
to.
yep.
Now, is this a first reading or is this a?
Just
Do I have a
for-
motion to give ordinance 071921B first reading?
Yeah.
I'll
I'll give it a
sorry,
first reading.
I do
Oh,
have one
I'm
last
sorry.
question. Can you share like the 3 years? Why 3 years?
So the 3 years is really just to establish it as a residence.
And
We
not
felt that,
5 or,
yeah, we
I mean,
felt that
just-
3 years would really prevent what we were trying to prevent from happening.
okay,
We felt like that was enough time
okay.
to
I'm just
prevent
trying to
that issue.
understand like the backstory
There's
to how we got here.
there's probably a degree of arbitrariness to it in some regard, in the sense that the time needs to be long enough that no one would just carry it on their books vacant for that period of time before they switched it over. But at the same time, you could have someone be in there for a couple of years, and then at that point, perhaps they wanted to change it over to commercial. So it really was a reasonableness test that balances not gaming the system, but at the same time providing the people in that area flexibility in their development.
Okay, thanks.
Have first reading.
Okay, this ordinance will now go to Plan Commission. I think we're going to have a busy schedule at Plan Commission this month, it looks like. We're now on to regular items. Are there any other unfinished or new business?
I have one thing, actually two things real quick. Can you share, part of our conversation today is so much about new housing development. Can you share, Mayor Fadness, maybe about the status of the housing task force? That was something that sprang from the 2040 plan.
I cannot, but Megan Baumgartner sure can.
Okay.
Or Megan Schaefer, either one.
Either way. Thanks. Yes, so we did meet with some consultants last week who put in proposals for the housing study, and so we're hoping to solidify the contract with a consultant by the end of the month. We have identified individuals on the task force, and we will be communicating that to council as well by the end of the month.
Okay, good, thanks. I appreciate that update. Oh, I did have one other comment. Sometimes when we meet every month, it almost feels strange to me when we don't talk about COVID-19, and I feel like there's something I wanted to share that Monica Heltz, the Health Department Public Health Director, mentioned in her video. I think it just came out on Friday. So if I may, first of all, 3 weeks ago, the COVID community risk level for Fishers went down to level 1 low, and that's the first time that that's happened. 5 months ago, it was level 4 severe. So I think, to me, that's definitely proof that vaccines stop the spread. But if I can quote Monica Heltz real quick, I just want to say this out loud. She said, "The Delta variant is a predominant strain across the country. So the best protection that you have is through vaccination. I strongly encourage you, if you've been on the fence waiting to get vaccinated, please do get vaccinated as soon as you possibly can. This is our best defense as a population, as a city, and as individuals to protect us from not just this variant, but from any of the variants that are out there right now." I just wanted to echo that statement. I think that's very important, especially as kids go back to school in a couple weeks. Thanks.
Okay, moving on to the community comment. I'll now open it up for community comment. Any member of the community wishing to come forward to address the council may do so. Please state your name and address for the record. You will be given 3 minutes.
Good evening, council. My name is Michael Colby. I live at 7105 Cold Lake Drive, and I'm here with 3 items tonight. I'm going to go through them quickly since I only have 3 minutes. I want to thank Council Member Stoller for our efforts in having the Fisher's Crossing potholes filled. That's a long time making that happen. And I don't want to be ungrateful, but there's a couple potholes that they missed, pretty significant size, as you're heading on the northbound lane right in front of the Planet
Selena
Fitness.
actually called me this morning about that, Mike, so we'll be following up.
All righty, thank you. Secondly, on May 13th, the council had a retreat, and at which time private roads was discussed. And I believe Jason Taylor made the presentation, and I think Mayor Fadness jumped in at the end. I just want to know what the status was, because as I understood it, some policies were to be developed, a couple of different options, and then would be brought to the council for their consideration. So since this has been going on since I was on the council, I'd like to get an idea of what the status is with those policies being developed. Have they gone to the council? Have you reviewed them? Are they going to be coming up for review? And finally, oh yeah, the marsh, we had the Dust Bowl up there where the marsh used to be, and I think that's coming up on its 2-year time period. I understand that Kroger had some restriction on land use, but after the 2-year time, I think that's going to change. So maybe you could look into that and give me some idea of the status. Finally, I understand Quagenton, which was over on Fisher's Crossing, was moving because of the roads over there. So maybe with the private road thing, nah, just kidding. And to echo what Brad has said, when I was on the council, and I think David, John, and Pete, you might remember, when the UDO was developed, that was the answer PUDs were going to go away. We're going to have everything done by the UDO. And as Brad has indicated, we got more PUDs. And being in an area where PUDs are kind of important, you got buffers that need to be enforced. You know, I got trees that have been 30 years old that are down now and causing problems between my community and the business community. So those are my 3 items, and I would appreciate any feedback on my kit. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Quickly, I know we have another individual here. The private road policy, that will be coming back here in the next month. Is that right, Chris? So Mike, be on the lookout. That policy will be back in front of this group probably next month. And we'll try to get something going at 116th and Allisonville on that old Marsh store, or old Kroger site. That does not go unnoticed by me every time I drive by it. So we'll work on that. Sorry, ma'am, go ahead.
I'm Diane Welchel, and my address is 15915 126th Street, East 126th. I am president of the newly formed Fishers Historical Society, and I'm also the representative for Fall Creek Township on the Bicentennial Commission. And I want to make everyone aware that the Bicentennial for Hamilton County is in 2023. And I believe we also have people working on the sesquicentennial for Fishers, which is next year. I'm sorry, I'm trying to spread it out. We're trying to coordinate people and get everybody together that's on the commission and the sesquicentennial. And I do have handouts if anyone's interested in the Historical Society. That's all. Thank you.
Ma'am, if we could grab you after the meeting, Ashley Elrod from our team is working on some of those items, so we'd like to connect the two if at all possible.
Okay.
Thanks for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Madam President. Hello, my name is Tiffany Ditlevson. I live at 10433 Brixton Lane. I'm a Gulf War veteran, an Army brat, and I have military members in my family going back to the Civil War. I'm here to thank the members of our City Council who made the Gold Star Families Memorial Monument possible. As a member of a military fraternal organization, the VFW, Ernie Pyle Post 1120, we struggle with spending money to help veterans versus building memorials. Funding this memorial is a godsend to the living comrades, the fallen comrades, and the families that mourn that loss every day. Freedom is not free. The cost is blood, sweat, tears, and life. I ask the City Council members who funded this monument with personal contributions to please stand and state your name for the record. Thank you.
Salinas Dollar.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tiffany.
Good evening. I'm Paul Nix. I live at 10866 Thistle Ridge in Berkeley Grove. And November will be 31 years that we've lived there, raised our 7 children, and love Fishers, love it here. I have a problem that was created one day. My wife calls me at the office on a Friday afternoon, concerned about a gentleman who was snapping pictures and rude and obnoxious and et cetera, and gave me a phone number that she had for the guy, and I made some calls and et cetera. But what's happened there is that this person, unknown to us or to her, was an appraiser for the Rails to Trails, our properties on the trail there. And so since then, the attorney from St. Louis has rescinded his ability to represent us to the Federal Court of Claims. Federal Court of Claims, we have a hearing August 11th. I can't seem to find anyone to represent us legally. I just feel like I'm a little bit not prepared to defend myself there. So I'm just looking for advice, maybe someone that you could recommend that could represent us in this situation.
Come to the right place. I think Chris Kreisel is well-versed in these issues, so touch base after the meeting if at all
Perfect.
possible.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Nix.
Hi there. My name is Brian Fields, and just had a couple of questions of clarification from a couple things on the agenda tonight. One was about the big box ordinance, is what I'm calling it, the 2,500 square foot one. I thought originally that one of the carve-outs...
Sir, just for the record, what's your address?
8500 East 116th, number 911. The exceptions where it didn't need the review were the medical and office. And that's, I thought at one point it included industrial, but on the agenda here, or the attachment to the agenda, it did not say industrial. However, Megan, too, when she was talking, did say industrial. So I'm wondering if it does or does not include that. I think most residents would be less concerned with a marsh becoming a Dollar Tree than becoming an industrial use. So that was one item. The other item relates to the nickel plate with the zoning of 3-year being residential. I didn't know if there's any parameters on that that would require it to be 3 years from occupancy or something like that, as opposed to it's been zoned, developer has it, well, they can sit on it for 6 months, then start doing something, and you've really shortened that effective 3-year residential. So if there's a way to make sure that it is actually 3 years residential use before it moves into the automatic rezoning. Thank you.
Great question, sir. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, it's 3 years from C of O certificate. So from the certificate of occupancy, it's 3 years. And then on industrial, do you want to comment whether that language is included or not?
Yes, so that language was included, so it would include industrial buildings. And I do want to also point out that the underlying zoning is not changing for any of these properties. So it was referenced maybe a marsh building becoming an industrial use. The underlying zoning would prohibit that, so that wouldn't change. But the exemption itself does apply to industrial, and that language should be included in the ordinance, and we'll double check that.
Thanks, Megan.
Good evening. I'm Abraham Wondergem at 16331 Loire Valley Drive in Britton Falls. I think Councilor DeReamer this evening presented a very good issue that you really do need to think about. 5, 6, 7 foot setbacks do not work. There's problems. Not only the water you saw, the pictures that he showed you, there's mowing issues. We have a contractor that mows for us. My grass didn't get mowed for a month. I had 18-inch grass. Did any of you have 18-inch grass? Probably not. I called code enforcement, talked to Todd Sushi. Todd was nice enough to send the code enforcement guy out. Then I got an email saying that I had to have it mowed within 10 days or I was going to be fined. And I have a contractor that's supposed to do that. Well, fortunately enough, I got it taken care of, so I avoided that. But 5, 6, 7 foot setbacks do not work. So mowing is an issue. The huge issue I want to talk to you about, since I'm the guy that's bugging about the firehouse, is fire. With the winds we have in central Indiana, if there's a fire out of Britton Falls, you're going to lose 7 or 8 houses like that. Chief's going to do the best to get he can out there to save it. He did for you. But the thing of it is it's not going to work. And these are people who have invested their entire lives. This is the last house they were going to live in. It's not right. For future developers, I would suggest that the council, when you're considering these developments, you make it a requirement that the fire retardant materials are used. Chief Arusa calls our siding, we have the vinyl siding out there, fire siding. And I saw him at our 4th of July parade out there at Britton Falls. Got to talking and asked about my family. And I have a son that lives over in Glenside. They have 10-foot setbacks. 10 foot to the house. 10 foot to the house. 20 feet between the house. The chief started laughing. And I was wondering, what's going on? He whips out his cell phone. And I challenge each and every one of you sitting up there to send an email to the chief and ask him to show you a picture that he showed me of a house fire out in Tanglewood. With 20-foot setbacks, it melted the entire side of this house from the intense heat. And my son's house has 20-foot setbacks. His upstairs bedroom window, the sun comes around 1 o'clock in the afternoon, hits that. Guess what? It reflects the image on a neighbor's house. The neighbor's siding is melting now. And there could be a fire, so they're in the process of switching over to the fire retardant material. So the thing of it is, how do these problems happen? Well, when the developer takes all the topsoil off that acts as a sponge and leaves you with nothing but clay, that's going to happen. But Pulte has a history of just basically ignoring PUDs and ignoring covenants. We've asked them to do certain things. We're in the process of transition out there. Within 5 to 8 months, we're going to be independent and be vested from them. We're going to have a world of hurt out there. They're on the deferred maintenance program out there. Defer it until we can get it unloaded on them. So for safety purposes, for fire purposes, for maintenance purposes, for health purposes, give Councilor Dreamers, a thing. And I do challenge you. You see Steve? Say, hey, let me see that picture. Or email him, ask him to send you that picture. You're going to be shocked. 20 foot away.
Okay.
Not 5.
Ms.
Thank you. I know, 3 minutes. Thank you. Oops.
Doug Allman, 16124 East 126th Street. It's kind of a great irony to hear discussions of Britton Falls, because that's where I first got involved with government and politics, was over Britton Falls. And it gives me no pleasure to say I told you so, but some of what I'm hearing, was discussed back in '07 and that. One of the things while I'm thinking about it, and Diane was here. That 126th Street that I live on, and Britton Falls feeds in, and Piper Glens feeds in, and we've got the park out there. I think the speed limit's out there in like 50 now, and that's just too fast. I mean, that road's not been improved, and it's dangerous in front of my house. It's dangerous for people to walk up and down the road. It's bicycling and everything. Work on it last weekend. It really needs to be changed and looked at. I've kind of avoided talking about it, but my neighbors, Diane's approached me, others have approached me, and that really needs to be looked at as far as changing that speed limits, because the people are just driving too fast down that road. It's not patrolled, and I wish you would seriously look at that. And the other issue, and I'm going to bring this up, and I know I've discussed this before, and Mayor Fadness, I know he's heard me say it, but that the transportation plan out there really needs to be looked at. I still think 126 needs to be put through, and as you develop these other areas out there really needs be some north-south connectivity. I don't understand how that roundabout's going to work there at Florida Road. The cemetery's there. The subdivision's already been built there. I just don't see that working. But I still say to the people that live in this area, and as you put more and more people out there, we need to be able to move people, and that means either really strongly suggest 126th Street be looked at, and that bridge put through, and that would then feed traffic away from some of this area. It would put it past the schools. The schools are out there now, and we have not built, I've lived there for 35 years, we have not built a road in the entire time in Fall Creek Township. A new road has not been constructed in Fall Creek Township since I've lived there. And I think you could go back even further. I mean, we're basically operating on what was the county roads. I lived on a gravel road when I moved in there. Some of them is still chip and seal. And so, I mean, part of government, what government does, roads, infrastructure, that's a key component of government. And as you're going to develop out there, we really need to take a look at that infrastructure, because it's just not going to work in the future. So that I thank you.
Thank you, Doug.
Hello, I'm Connie Martin, 12201 Florida Road, and I've lived there for 45 years. So we've seen the progress. I've been at every zoning when Welchel Springs, which is right across from my house, was being built, when Britton Falls. I'm a realtor. I have a degree in civil engineering, BC, before children, and then you stayed home. The traffic, I don't know what kind of engineers have been working on the traffic plan. There is no north-south. I am not against development. I know the people who have sold their farms. I know it's progress, but I have pleaded that you do it well, and you have not done it well. Doug just mentioned that. My big question, where Cynthia Road, which should have been carried straight south from I-69 across Fall Creek, back to Cynthia on the other side. Somebody's great idea was to turn it and dump it on Florida Road, and now I see in your drawing that Florida Road's one of the primary feeders to a roundabout at Southeastern, which will be a plus, because right now, if you're on Florida Road, you can't turn left anytime near school, because most people take their kids to junior high and stuff now. It is a nightmare out there, and I don't know how many of you really, I'm still unincorporated, so I don't get to vote for you guys, which kind of stinks, but if you'd go out and see the area, Fall Creek has beautiful topography. It could have been kept as a very nice, and here it's just same old, same vinyl villages. You know, the patio homes, which are too close, I agree, are the cheaper, and they say, oh, it's for the old, but unless there's a time, age restriction, it's just going to be the cheaper home there with families, with kids, and it's not going to be empty nesters. It's going to be just like the other vinyl villages of the less expensive homes. The schools, as you know, are just bursting out there, the new elementary, the junior high, and everything out there. But the last time we really asked you guys to take a traffic count was and you did it during COVID when the schools were closed. At 3 o'clock, the high school comes out, and the high schoolers go down 126th Street to Southeastern Parkway. They turn right on Florida Road, and it's a constant 50, 60 mile an hour. And yeah, I have chickens that go out on the road, and we've had a few hit. I mean, and that's my fault. But, you know, you guys just, I've been here for years, and we used to have a whole lot of unincorporated people that showed the value of a north-south road. And to blind eyes, closed ears. So
thank you for your comments.
All right.
Do we have anyone else that would like to speak during the community comment section? Seeing none, I will now close the community comment period, and with that, I'll call for a motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn. We are adjourned. Thank you.